Welcome back to We Take the Stairs. This is our second episode of our second season. And I'm joined today by two lovely ladies, my co-hosts,
Brianna Garcia.
And Dusty Ramirez.
And today we're going to be discussing communication. And I have to say that this has been a particularly stressful week because I am moving. And so as I've been moving and packing boxes, I've been really stressed out, but in my stress, I've been thinking, okay, like about this episode, what are we going to do? And then I had this idea and it totally just now is scratched because of something that happened the other day. So, but I am going to tie this in, but this is going to be a funny antic. So for those of you who haven't figured it out or haven't watched an episode, which please do, because we dive into some really interesting topics. And if you have any ideas, absolutely let us know. So that was a little side note. I'm kind of quirky, and I think that I am definitely zany as well. So I'm telling you this because what happened was, if you know anything about me, is so me, but anyway, about communication. So I'm driving. I pick up my son from school, my 14-year-old, and he goes to kind of a prestigious private school. And we're making a U-turn, and all of a sudden, I'm talking to my son, and I make a U-turn, and all of a sudden, I see this little bitty kitten, and it's rolling because somebody's hit the kitten. And the people pass, and I'm a mom, and if there's any women listening who are moms, you are about to relate probably like wholeheartedly to the story. So I see this baby kitten and I go, no. And my son's like, what? I said, look, somebody hit a kitten and they didn't stop. And this poor baby kitten is rolling right in the street. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And like my mother instinct takes hold, and I open my door, and it is like 4 lanes. Okay. So, but thank God, really, truly, thank you God that no one else was there. And this poor kitten runs in pain. And then it just like finds this area where it's like between the intersection and the median. And it just sort of like curls up into a ball. And I'm like, no! So ironically, Peggy Adams is right across the street. And if you don't know what Peggy Adams is and you're listening, it's an animal rescue place. And they are absolutely wonderful people there. But here's where I get really zany. So I run in. This was like, anyone ever see ER, the show ER back in the day? Right. I feel like I was on like a take of that. And I run in, I like rush, I park my car. I'm like, David, just wait here. And I run in there. I'm like, help! And everybody looks up. I said, someone just hit a baby kitten. I need help. Right. Okay. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. One woman follows me and she's like, I'll help you. And I rush, like I'm like running like a crazy person. And I go out in the median, and this baby kitten looks up at me and he's like, help me, in his eyes. And so then, because he's a feral kitten, come to find out, he then rushes across the street to this bush, a bunch of bushes, and he goes in there. Okay, so I'm just going to cut the story and say 35 minutes later, my hair is filled with twigs. I have been climbing through these bushes. I've got mud all over my face.
You're also severely allergic to cats.
Yeah, I am actually allergic to cats. So, I mean, I'm just going to do the best I can to make this short, but I swear I'm going to tie it into what we're talking about today. So I take this, finally I get this baby kitten with some help, and I put it in my shirt, and I'm like, I actually was like, God, please don't let this kitten die, please. Yeah. And so it was stressful because I've been moving all week. Right. I was like, please, Lord, just please, this baby kitten, he deserves to live. And I walk into the Peggy Adams. It was exactly it. I walk into Peggy Adams, and they're like, ma'am, put it in the basket. And I'm like, I might hurt it. He's in my shirt. I mean, it was crazy. Anyway, they took the cat. The cat is fine. I called the next day. He has a broken leg, but he made it through the night. It was all right. So this communication lesson is 2 things. So I will tell you, 1, I will tell you that maybe the communication method of, oh my gosh, is not the greatest method of communication, but sometimes we get stuck in those moments, right? Yeah. And here is my biggest, this is where the whole thing decided for me when I was focusing on thinking, what are we going to talk about? Because I do get stuck in that. I was thinking originally we would talk about first how we communicate with each other, right? Men and women. And then I started to think something different. So every morning I have like time where I read the Bible and I spend time with God and I pray and I walk and you know, I'm immersed in trying to become a better person, right? So like my prayer at night is to not necessarily take on the tasks of Jesus, but definitely to be better like Jesus, right? So I specifically make me a kinder person or make me a more gentle person. And so while I was walking, I started to reflect on that and I was talking to myself in my head, you know, like we all have self-speak, right? And I started to consider how we all talk to each other in the world today and how we really do a great job of tearing each other down, if you think about it, right? So we hear like even in the media, it's always there. Social media, you know, like news media, it's always against, right? Against. And you're like, where does that come from? And then it occurred to me, communication actually begins with yourself and how you talk to yourself.
I love talking to
And if
myself.
you're not talking
Me
to
too.
yourself in a way that is positive
And kind.
and kind, which we are great at tearing ourselves down, right? I mean, I'm my own worst critic. How are we then supposed to go out into a world and talk to people in a kind way? So that is where it shifted. So if today I'm wondering how, because we're trying to bridge gaps here, we're able to go from, so the correlation to me is that the way that we talk to ourselves is often negative, right? I mean, that's just true. Like I'm not good enough, or I need to lose weight, or I, you know, wow, look, like my lips are too small, or whatever, right? Like the negative things that we say. No wonder that our world is where it is, right?
Yep.
Because we are talking to ourselves in general, at least, you know, me, I'm very hard on myself. People have always told me that. If we're talking to ourselves in that way, and that's the internal communication, of course, the external communication is that way. And then we become frustrated with our partner, our friends, and then, you know, and so I'm wondering if you girls would be comfortable kind of talking about our own internal monologue and how maybe that might relate, and if we can bridge that gap and bring awareness to our own understanding, and maybe somebody else can relate, maybe they'll realize that their internal voice is not always positive. And maybe we can create some momentum around trying to talk better to ourselves and then treat each other better.
Yeah, I feel like I catch myself anytime I am speaking negatively about myself or someone else, thinking like, okay, how could I look at this from a different perspective, or like, where can I give myself credit? Because it's normal to like judge yourself when you're doing something that you're not fully proud of. But I also feel like baby steps is important, and giving yourself credit for like the small things that you are doing, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah, but it is normal to be like, okay, I could have done this differently, instead of negativity, just like correcting yourself and thinking of a solution rather than a problem.
Yeah.
So reframing it.
Yeah, reframing it. Like, what can I change about this? How could I change what I just did for a better outcome? Yeah.
I think that's super common that I think it's natural for us to have those like moments of like a negative or imposter syndrome, like you're not good enough, or you didn't do that good enough, or you should do this better. But I think that what you're saying is, you know, catching ourselves and doing that reframe.
Yeah.
Flipping that script. The more we do that, right? They say, what is it, 60 days to make a new pattern, right? So we're changing neurological patterns. And so when you stop yourself and be like, actually, no, I am doing enough. You know what? I'm doing exceptionally well today.
And doing that for others too. You actually do this. Sometimes at work I'll be like, oh, I'm so stupid. And she's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, you're right. I'm not stupid. And not that I'm like meaning it when I say it, but how you talk to yourself, I feel like is so important, because like that's what other people are hearing. And that's how you're like.
That's what you're hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which maybe this is a good time to share the scripture
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
So,
Dusty's
I'll share it.
Dusty's
Yeah.
in charge of the scripture.
I will
of the
share
day
that
this
today
week.
because I think I just, you know, keeping it super, super simple. And Proverbs 18, 21 is, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. And I think that is
That one
really
hits.
important to sit with for a minute. It's the, you know, the sword, the tongue is the sword. It can, you know, death and life. And so speaking life, like I think about that a lot with myself, with others. And you know what, actually randomly this morning, for no other reason than something came up with somebody having a cancer diagnosis and how the doctor delivered it. And in my brain, I thought to myself, if ever that occurred for me in that moment, I think I would have to look the doctor dead in the eyes and be like, I'm going to need you to reframe that. I need you to speak life into me, right? And I think we need to do that more with others too. Like, I'm going to just ask you for clarity here, and I'm going to ask you to reframe that, because we should be speaking life into each other.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and sometimes when you say things, you don't understand how someone else can interpret it. So it's so important to, like, I don't know, it's all back to what I said last episode too, is gently delivering, being a little more kind with your words.
Right.
Yeah.
Which can be hard, especially if you're hard on yourself.
Yeah, and
So-
if you're frustrated.
Right. So when you have that sort of, I'm very hard on myself and the way that I think, but I'm less hard on others. I don't really know how that happened, but I have a lot of, and that's how I actually, if you missed the tie-in, I guess I know the tie-in. I was, oh my gosh, like, I don't have really time, but I've got to take this care of this kitten because, like, it's a life, right? So all life really matters. So, but in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, you're not going fast enough. You've got all these people in the house. Like, are you really, how about just like, hey, good job, girl.
Yeah.
And how many times do we really just, wow, like how many times are we proud of ourselves? And how many times are we acknowledging how far we've come in a situation or anything, and then how much is that, especially as women, how much is that rubbing off on our how we treat our partner or the people that, whatever partnership it is or whatever relationship it is. I'm wondering if that has a lot to do with the breakdown of, let's say, like how our society is communicating these days.
Well, I feel like it has to do with setting boundaries too. When you have certain boundaries, and then you'll be like, especially for other people, you'll treat yourself better, which will allow you to treat others better.
Probably, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes even there, like when you're overwhelmed and it's just too much going on and you keep taking on more, that's probably why at the end of the day, you're not feeling great, because it's so much and you're doing it all alone.
And maybe not even acknowledging to yourself, like, wow, I am doing all of this. I feel like you're actually really good at that with other people. I don't know how you are about yourself. We only know how we are about ourselves, but you're really good at saying, hey, you're doing a really good job here.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that, Dusty, you were very, kind in that way, because you're uncommonly kind in that way, where you look and say, hey, you know what, you're doing a good job here, you know what I mean? And I don't know, maybe we're not doing that enough.
Well, I think, Rachel, like you're saying, I think I'm really good at speaking that over others, and I think I'm actually, comparatively to most, really pretty good at speaking kindly to myself. Of course, there are times where I'm, especially like I'll get postpartum is a really challenging time.
Oh yeah.
To look in the mirror and not recognize yourself. But I still think that I put forth a really good effort and still speaking kindly over myself, but going to the root of, why are we like that? Like, why are you like that? Why are you so great at being so kind to others and not so great at being kind to yourself? Like, where does that come from? And
that's a good question.
Going into self, like really looking and sitting with self, like I could share mine. Like, I've sat with that for a long time. Like, why am I so kind to others in a point that it actually overextends myself? And it's because there was a little girl in me that didn't get those needs met. Right. Like, there wasn't somebody speaking life into me. I mean, my mother, but she was so busy working 3 jobs to just keep us alive. And she was a great example, but she wasn't, she didn't have the extra time to really be like, speak those words of life into us. It was just go, 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 stay alive, stay alive. And my father was...
It's like survival mode.
Yes. And he was, pretty much nowhere to be found. And if he was found, he wasn't speaking life into me. He was speaking not kind things. And I think back to that, and I've sat with that a lot, and watching, having my own kids and choosing a different route and being the black sheep of the family of, doing everything completely different. That comes from that little girl in me that always wanted that reassurance, right? That you are enough. You're doing a good job. what you're doing is enough. And so I think never wanted other people to feel like they weren't doing enough.
People pleasing.
Yeah.
I'm also a people pleaser.
Yeah. And then as I've gotten older, I've done less people pleasing and more honest, truthful.
So interestingly, like biblically, which, for me, the Bible provides a framework. So if you're looking biblically, you've got darkness and light, right? So all love and light comes from God, because God is love. I mean, he is. He created this beautiful world. And then obviously if there's love and there's light, there is the opposite, right? So if the thoughts are negative, that's not from God. Right. And I think that there's whatever a person believes in, let's say, it's really reflected in how we root ourselves and how we self-speak. So I've had to actually change that. There was a woman that I know, her name is Allison, and she helped me recognize a lot. And she's a person who I've come to love very much, and she's a mentor. And if like ever there was an angel in the world, like she is that in my life. And she taught me that, she asked me if I knew once, like, do you know what love is? And agape love. And I said, no. And I had to define that. And through that, I learned that I wasn't loving myself.
And what is agape love?
It is like pure love that only really God can give, right? It's like the perfect love. So it's sacrificing. It's what, when biblically, when Jesus came and he sacrificed himself, that was the truest form of love ever, because right. So when you have the competition from what love is, right? It's going to be negativity. So whatever negative is in your head, I think it's a way to keep us down. And so to sort of segue into the part of the conversation that has to do with relationships and communication, I'm not sure that the world, which, you can either be a person of the world and the world is like in you, or you are a person in the world and you are making a difference, right? I mean, I think we can all agree on that. So when you have that, in my opinion, and I'm no expert, but this is what I've come to learn in my 43 years, when you have, that separation between good and bad and love and not love, the love, it wins every time, but the easiest thing to fall to is the negativity. And I think it's just our whole world is surrounded by things that tell us you're not enough. Right. Even social media, like that FOMO.
Always social media.
All the look, my life is perfect, right? It is. And my life is perfect. Your life is not perfect. If you're trying to, I'm sorry, the last thing I have messed up so much. Yeah. Like I had coined this phrase, God's glue. And it was like, God's glue is what took all the pieces of my life, put them together, and the light shines through, right? I mean, that's pretty common, but it's true. It made me realize that the worst critic, the worst thing that is in my life is my own negative self-speak. And so because of my own dislike, right, for myself, for my negativity in my own self, I then was hard on other people or would lash out.
Projecting.
Right, exactly. So when women communicate, it's obviously very different than the way men communicate. In our last season, we learned about how men's communication is often either through, especially with women, silence, because they don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to do the wrong thing. They just, I remember Z, he was like, sometimes I think to myself, I better just not say anything at all, because if I say the wrong thing, this isn't good. So I just am quiet. And I find all the guys in my house are like that. I think this is a common theme for men. It's easier just to not do anything. But that's not good. Because then as women, we think you've shut down. And then we start to internalize and the negative talk, right? Like, he doesn't love me, or, or what's happening, and he may not know what to say. So our own insecurities and the own thing, if we feed those, I feel like that really does start to play into our personal relationships with our spouses, with our boyfriends, with our children, or our parents. How do you, feel about that?
You first. I don't know. I have to think about this one. There's like so much.
Yeah. I can take over. I think, well, I have a background in psychology, and so like I kind of love this and communication
Perfect.
styles. So I think I actually noted, I went back in my brain and just noted a couple of things, but you know, there's different classical communication styles. One is assertive, right? It's saying and sharing your feelings and thoughts without really doing those things in a respectful way, but without worry for other people's feelings, right? And then there's passive, and that's to avoid conflict. You know, a lot of women fall into the passive category where they're like, you know what, I'm not going to say what I really think because I don't want to be judged.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to hurt other people's feelings. And then there's aggressive, which classically men fall into, right? They're using force and say what they want to say without disregard, or, you know, disregarding what others are feeling. And then there's collaborative communication, which is saying like, you and I are going to sit at a table together in a respectful manner, share our thoughts and feelings in a collaborative effort to come to some sort of agreement, or sometimes not even agreement, but just what we're doing now, right? We're collaborating. And I think you're never in an absolute. You're never always one of those things, right? So it's totally in the moment of where you're at and who you're communicating and how you're communicating. So I think I'm mostly assertive. Like I'm really comfortable sharing my thoughts and feelings in a respectful manner. But I can always fall into the passive. Like if in my relationship, like I have a very strong male husband, man who is very convicted in a lot of the ways that he thinks. And sometimes I have to just be passive because I'm like, you know what?
The juice isn't worth the squeeze here.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like sometimes it's also, I have to think about it when I'm communicating, when I want to say something. I'm like, is this going to come off as controlling? How is this person going to perceive this? But at the same time, it's how you feel and however someone perceives it. Even if they don't completely understand where you're coming from, they have to look at it from a different perspective. Because sometimes I'll say, oh, is this bothering you, to somebody, and they might not understand why, but I'm like, I could tell it is, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Like your feelings are valid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So understanding where someone's coming from is super important.
Or even just sitting, like you're saying, like
Trying to understand.
Making the effort to like seek clarity.
Exactly.
Right?
Because that makes someone feel more comfortable about expressing their feelings to begin with. With you.
Yeah.
But when we're in a conflict with men, because ultimately this show and this season also, well, all the seasons are sort of about bridging the gaps, especially in terms of relationships between men and women, which is where, you know, I really feel like we're now splintering, right, in society. In terms of that, let's say we're like in a heated moment. How easy is it
to freak out,
to forget exactly what we're saying right now? And I think that's where we're going to have to dig deeper here. So, you know, you don't always get most of the time, we're collaborating. We come here and we're like, hey, and we're at least somewhat like-minded, but our differences, we're like, okay. But you go home and I go home and it's like, see you next week. And I love you girls. But when we're living with a man and we have children, or not children, but definitely when we have a partner, it is a lot harder because you know, your mask is down, you're stripped down to your vulnerability, and they know you, and we have to start there. We have to start with when we get mad, and where what they say, you know, in therapy or psychology is triggered. Now let's go from there.
The hot word,
they
right?
have hurt us, or we have hurt them, and we're in this like contest where we're like, but I'm right. You know, how important is it to be right? And then there's also very different phases of a relationship. Like you can be in the beginning of your relationship and everybody's trying. That's right. Like the blissful period. But then you're like,
nice.
Yeah, it is nice. But like that lasts so little. So I think many times, from what I understand, men are left very confused at the in-between phases. Like, oh, we went from honeymoon period to like, I don't understand why you blah, 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 blah. And the guy's like, wait, what?
I just find it funny.
Yeah, right. And they then are like, well, what happened to you? And then, of course,
gritty.
they've coined this term, you're crazy, or my girl is crazy. And it's like, yeah, you've driven me there. Now, let's start talking right now.
Right.
about that.
The
I think my phone
crazy.
literally just went off.
Well,
I have.
go
you
ahead.
Go, no.
Okay. Well,
It's fine.
crazy, right? There's this great book called Love and Respect, and I think everyone should just take a quick dive into that at some point. And it's called the crazy cycle. And I think when you spend enough time with somebody, you do get into a crazy cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty self-aware, and I think my husband Z is also pretty self-aware, but we still get in the crazy cycle.
Mhm.
And it is crazy, and I might look crazy and I might sound crazy. But it's this like, we have these things that we bring to the relationship, right? We have the baggage.
Yeah.
We have the trauma,
Yeah.
right? We have well, this happened to me. Or maybe we have the things in us that were like not even coming out of the surface, right? When early on or midway through or late 10 years later, we're in it. And there's still like these little triggers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my lack of a strong male figure in my life and then marrying a strong man there are some triggers, right? So that I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my time here because I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to look at you. I actually don't really like you today.
Yeah.
But I love you and I respect you.
Right.
And I also have learned to see the bigger picture in my personal relationship. So I think if sometimes we can step back. I mean, there are times where I don't speak to him for a couple of days because I have to sit with it because I'm like, that feels real aggressive.
Sitting with it is really important in order to not do the exact aggressive style of communication. Yes, impulsive, irrational.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when I'm really angry and someone wants to talk about something, I'm like, I really need a little bit of time to rationalize my feelings because I don't want to say the wrong thing or react
and that's
irrationally.
A mature sort of emotional.
Yeah, but sometimes that can make a male or like whether it's in a relationship or family, like have a lot of uncertainty and be like insecure. Yeah. So that's hard too. That's like,
how do you deliver that message?
Yeah. I mean, I just say it. I feel like I just let someone know like, hey, don't overthink this, but I need a little bit of time. But if someone told me that, and
you're definitely overthinking it.
Yeah.
And that's like,
so it's hard.
It is true because it's also kind of a double standard. Because if we say we need time, we're like, you just need to give me the time. And you're rude not to give me and you're controlling. Now let's flip the script because we are trying to ultimately help guys, which will ultimately help us.
Right.
Let's say your boyfriend's like, listen, like, really, this is a lot. I need some time. Go.
I would take it super personally, probably.
Right. So how fair is that?
I would be like, you don't love me enough to like talk about this right now. But honestly, the more I'm really trying to get better at the double standard thing and see where like he's coming from in the moment. Because I'm like, okay, I would rather you have time and us like solve this than you react and it get worse.
Right. And I think it's different. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's different. Your time at 20 something, 26 years old and unmarried is different than my time at 39 and married, right? Like if you need time, take your time.
Right.
By all means, take your time.
Yeah.
But like 26 and you're not married. So there's that uncertainty that there's not a safety net there, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like fully there.
Yeah. So you're like, well, what does that mean? What does time mean?
And then people start, exactly, like, oh, you want space?
Right.
I don't know. It
what does that
into
mean?
So many,
right? But in marriage, like at least for me, and I'm grateful for this, that, we have a pretty healthy marriage. Yeah. Sometimes he doesn't even say it, but I know he needs it, right? Like he needs that time. And sometimes I'll say something to him that triggers him and, he'll take a couple days where he doesn't really say a whole lot. He'll sit, and I know that that's him taking time and how he's going to respond to my deliverance of my piece, right? But it is different when you don't have the safety net of marriage. And I was actually saying this to our daughter the other day because I don't remember how it came up, but talking about whether or not she was going to choose to get married someday. And I said, marriage is a really amazing thing, but it's also a very important thing. Like it brings safety, it brings stability, and it brings partnership and all of these things that God wants for us, right? And the whole conversation now that I'm thinking about it previous was about how many bodies kids have in school. And I said, this is crazy, right? And I shared with her, I said, I wasn't one to sleep around a whole lot.
Oh, body count.
But I do wish I would have waited till marriage. I do.
Okay.
When I look back on it.
Yeah.
it would have saved me so much headache and so much heartache and so much confusion and all of these things that marriage has brought the safety, and it's special, right? It's different. And so I was trying to explain that to her, that marriage is a beautiful thing, but you have to really give it your all in terms of, you don't just get to be like, you know what, this isn't working.
No,
you don't get to do that.
You can't
Well,
give
I
up.
mean, you
People can, but you shouldn't. It's
You
such a
can.
big commitment.
Well, and it's not
tearing
even that you
apart.
shouldn't, but you really, when you decide to get married, I don't think anybody goes into marriage and is like, oh, I'm just going to willy-nilly get married, right?
Right.
Nobody goes into it like that.
Maybe
but
in Vegas.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, most people don't go into it, but it's a really nitty gritty, pick your battles and also like heal your wounds.
But I do have to say though, I think some people do get married to get married.
You're
I feel
right.
like some people feel rushed and like an age thing. I have so many friends who are like, oh my God, I'm getting older. Like I haven't found the one, like on dating apps and stuff. And I'm like, you should just find yourself and like everything else will come to you. Cause like when I've never been looking for something, I feel like I found the best things in my life, whether it was like my boyfriend, my job, like, I don't know, not forcing anything and not rushing anything is huge.
That takes a lot of confidence.
And I think when,
Yes,
it does. And that's like, I've learned a lot about being alone and feeling alone. That's like when I actually started to really love myself the most.
Yeah.
Because I only had myself.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
really
I
good
think
insight.
as far as being married, that when you pick your partner, there's so much more than just like loving that person. Like, how's this person going to be as a parent?
Mm-hmm.
Do we agree with parenting skills and how we're going to parent our kids, speak to our kids?
Right.
Yeah, there's so much. And I've learned that with my parents. I'm like, oh, it's so important for parents to be on the same page.
You know what I've noticed in relationships, which you may be at a deficit here in this conversation segment, because I noticed that when people start out, obviously we go in and we have these great intentions. And as much as I love kids, I have kids, it's the best thing I've ever done, they do present an element to the relationship that I don't think anybody's ready for.
No.
Even if you have the greatest, strongest marriage and you guys stay together throughout this marriage or partnership. Some people, I guess, choose not to get married and have kids, you know. But everyone's represented here. But let's just say marriage and kids. Here is where I have, realized that many men begin to struggle. And I don't think that I'm wrong here. In observation and my own personal experience and listening to, like, I have interviewed so many men in preparation for this. I mean, it's been
She's ready.
I'm ready for this
here.
one. When a woman's focus is solely on the man, it's really going okay. And when the man's focus is solely on the woman, they're able to communicate. Enter one child. Okay, the guy's starting to feel a little bit frustrated. The woman's focus is now solely on the child most of the time, but obviously she expects the partnership. And I believe that the breakdown of communication often comes there. Then we have more children and more children, however many children that we have. And then men begin to, that I've spoken to and seen, withdraw a little bit because the woman's focus is now on the children and expecting the man to step up, like she's had to step up. And I think we have a lot more time and preparation when we're like baking the baby and it's, we're getting to know this child in our womb. And men don't have that experience. So we walk into it very differently than men. It affects relationships severely. Yeah. And men begin to feel neglected. And I think that the breakdown,
women also feel neglected.
Sure. Right.
But yes.
Right.
I keep going, but yes.
Yes. Right.
I think yes.
I think that it happens. I think they begin to actually be neglected. But first, I think that the men feel neglected and then they step away.
Yes.
Well, since I don't have kids, but I'm a kid real quick, I just have to say I always need my mom. So I feel like as a mom, you probably feel like, oh my God.
That's
like
right.
that's why you're
Kids
neglected.
do.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
and then
you
the
can't
dad's
be
kind of
everything.
just like,
and the
call your
woman's
mom.
point of view is we made this child together. These are our children together.
Yeah.
But there's a very interesting phenomenon that it has happened from the beginning of time, because this is when, if men start to falter in a marriage in general, it's usually around when the children are young, because the woman's focus is now
because they're not paying attention.
That's right. Well, they're not paying attention, but her love is not just solely going into the relationship. She's thinking it's a family unit. And I think women are so like, wait, what happened here? You know,
Yeah.
because it's an all-encompassing job, motherhood.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about communication. And when that breakdown happens, here is where I would like to do like a think tank, and let's solve in our mind, have some solutions for men. When we start to have a breakdown in our relationship or other priorities in the relationship, people and their communication patterns obviously change. You know, I've experienced that. I know you've experienced that. I'm sure to some degree you've seen it or experienced that. Let's break that down. Let's just focus for the rest of the session on that and the solution to that, because I find that many men become very frustrated when women have children. Everything begins to change, and I'm not saying women don't become frustrated.
No,
it's
of course.
so hard to balance all of it. I do it.
Yeah.
It's insane. But yeah.
I have to sit with that for like a second, because I'm like, how do I articulate?
Yeah. I guess we have to figure out at that time what we need. You know, what do I need? You know, I'm a mom, I'm exhausted, I'm not sleeping. The kids are like, mom, it's not easy. You're like, you know, you're like you're breastfeeding or you're changing diapers and you're exhausted at the end of the day, and your husband's like, hey, honey, and he's expecting this, you know, and it's not perfect because we're just people.
Yeah.
But
well, I think firstly,
light a candle, have some tea.
I was going to say, setting time aside.
You know, I will say I'm really good at setting the tone in the house, especially when I know that things are
a little shaky.
Okay.
Like the foundation's a little rocky. And it's a lot of rocky lately because we have a lot going on, you know, in our house.
Chaos.
A lot of chaos all the time. But I do think it starts with in the home, making it a place for them to come home to that feels safe. So waiting till you kind of unload on them after they've had some time to settle in. Because they walk in, right? And it's chaos from the second. Like, we're in it all day. So we're just, we look crazy.
You've surrendered.
I've surrendered to the chaos. But they're, you know, from whatever they're doing in their day, which is also a certain level of chaos, right?
Sure.
Whatever that looks like. And then they should want to come home. They don't want to come home and feel like they're unappreciated. That it's just more stress, right? And I think that generally they're excited to see their kids. Most men, I think so, are excited to see their kids. Yeah. And I know their kids are probably really excited to see them. So the first 15 minutes they walk through the door, they're being tackled by children, in our case, 4 of them, right? Yeah. He's like, and I'm at the back of the bus.
Yeah, you are.
Like, I might not even get a hello for 10 minutes. And I've surrendered to that too, because it is just, that's part of it. Like, I tell my friends all the time, enjoy your marriage right now. Really enjoy your marriage together, because once the child comes into play, you will never be first again. Well, at least until they're out of the home. You might get first after that, but I'm not there yet, so I don't know. But I know that, and it's not from a place of, unappreciation. It's just how it works. And so I think setting the stage for them to want to come home, giving them the space to come home and not be attacked, and then
probably having a good family dynamic, like being able to sit down and have dinner together with the kids, so you can also have a good time with your partner.
That is something that we do, is we do dinner together.
Yeah, I didn't have
every night at the table. Pretty much every night. I would say 5 nights a week we're at the table together, and that is really beneficial for everybody.
It's important.
But I would say,
do sports or anything?
Yeah, they do. So sometimes it's late, sometimes it's earlier. Yeah. Sometimes we're surviving, but I would say in terms of communication, we still have a lot to learn in our home. But we're acknowledging of that. We do have a lovely marriage therapist she's just a queen, and thankful for her, but carving out the time. And I would say that in our marriage, I almost feel like I've lost my partner and friend sometimes, because I'm like, you're in it together, but you're not really ever just together. Yeah. Right now, in where we're 6 months into a new baby. So that's the first year is chaos. But you sort of feel, you live together and you still feel alone sometimes, weirdly, because, you're doing your two different things, keeping the family unit together, and your kids are all thriving and it's amazing and you're having so much fun and I love my kids. And yet you still feel there's this distance in communication. And
there. How do we solve that?
That's what I was just going to say. And we're currently figuring out, where can we make space? Where can we make time? And how?
Right.
But acknowledging that there is that gap, and where and how. And sometimes that's a cup of coffee, or maybe it's a walk if you can find that time, or maybe it's just a little like touch.
I was going to say, I like affection. Like, give me a hug.
I'm a touch person. I'm a touch and an acts of service. So
me too.
If we go throughout a day without a touch, I'm probably pretty sad.
Same.
I'm probably pretty sad. Yeah. But I think that's a really important piece. Acknowledging your partner's love language.
Oh, yeah.
What is that? You would be surprised by how many people don't know what their partner's love language is. They're like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, it's a really important thing. You might want to.
It is, and everyone's is very different.
You might want
to
dive into that a little bit. But I think acknowledging someone's love language and then providing a safe space for them to want to come home to.
Right. I feel like we're missing a man's perspective. So I'm definitely going to start having a man each time that we're here this time, because I know I thought originally that like just it would be a little bit, oh, there's a fly on me, a little bit intimidating.
Well, I think if you jump back to season one,
right,
you will also get a man's perspective, because I think you guys covered that a little bit.
Yeah, we did. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. In season one, we did. But now we're trying to cover it from a female perspective. But like, I'm trying to play like the male, and I can't play a male here. Right? Yeah, it would be good. So we will have a guy next time.
Share a little piece about that.
Maybe somebody that we really, really know and are familiar with. Junior is actually in New York City, and he'll be back soon. I just am not for sure when, because he's got a couple of things that he's doing. But I definitely think it would be important to have a man chime in, because I can try my very best, and I have sons, and my whole life is surrounded by males, but I am just doing my best to understand. I can't fully grasp the reality. I just know that, people are getting married less. Divorces are happening more, and people are just throwing in the towel. I don't know if that's like a generational thing, or everything's so transient and it's easier to just divorce. And then there's this cycle of familial dysfunction that happens, and that's really hard. And I mean, I'm certainly just one person, and this is just a podcast of, people trying to bridge gaps. But I really feel like if we can figure out how to best bridge that distance between a man and a woman in the times that are difficult, and how to help with the communication and that. It's always subjective, right? It's personal. Each person's situation is personal. But just bringing awareness to the fact that we have to still make that time, even when we have children and we're crazy. You have a partner there. And I'm sorry to say this, at any moment that person can leave, because even though you feel that marriage is more secure, it should be more secure.
It should be, but
it isn't anymore. Yeah. So you maybe, look at Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. Yeah. They never got married. Those people are, oh my goodness, they've been living together forever. They're making it happen. You know what I mean? They're an actor and actress.
Please tell me you're kidding.
Overboard?
No, I'm not kidding.
Oh gosh, watch Overboard.
Lord.
And so it's a couple that got together. They live in Hollywood, and
Goldie Hawn. She's like the queen of like great hair and like
beautiful,
just stunning.
You'll have to look it up. You'll have to look them up. So watch the original movie Overboard. It was a great movie. So anyway, partnership is just extremely important, and I feel like when you have a good partner, you have a lot more figured out. You don't have it all figured out, but at least you're like fighting in the game with someone.
Yeah.
You're not like in the trenches alone.
Yeah.
But I think most times people these days, because of the communication breakdown, social media, the phone does not help.
No.
Put the phone down. Stop talking to your girlies or looking at your, chess game or whatever you're doing, and talk to each other.
Well, I think as you're speaking, I'm realizing that there's like such this huge piece that we're forgetting to mention, and that is just having the ability to come together and pray together.
Amen.
Like, that is so important. And not even for those people who maybe aren't even there yet in terms of their relationship with God, their creator, however you want to term that for you. Right. There is power in prayer, period. So for even the people who are not religious, like I have a sweet friend who I love dearly, and I think we couldn't probably be more opposite in our belief system in that sense. And she said to me one time, or messaged me, and she's like, I know you're, what did she say? Something like, I know you're good with God. And, so if you don't mind throwing some prayers up for me. And I'm like, of course, I'd love to pray for you. But even in her saying that, tells me that somewhere within her heart, she believes in the power of prayer, of course, right? Yeah. Like, and she might not be there yet. She might not be on her knees in that space of like ready to pray. But prayer is so powerful. And even if you don't even know where to start, like sometimes people don't know where to start. And there was a time I didn't know where to start. Like you really, I think, have to be brought to your knees in desperation sometimes to say, God, if you're real, please, like, help me here. Like, I don't know what to do. And I think that's a lot of people get to, and in marriage and in partnership, like, if this is for me, like, God, please help me here. I'm actually really glad that you said that, because at the end of the day, I think people struggle a long time. I did in my relationship with God, and I'll tell you why. I will. Yeah. It is so hard to believe that kind of love is available to you. Yeah. 24/7 nonstop. Absolutely. And when you're focusing on your relationship in terms of the Bible and you come to pray together, it changes everything. Yeah. People become vulnerable. A man will speak prayer over his family. His wife may not even know how he feels, but if he's able to vocalize that and they have a shared understanding, that's extremely important. Well, it softens your heart. Absolutely. It softens your heart. People struggle. Like, I don't know if I believe in God. And I don't know. I don't know if I could believe that. There are signs everywhere. Look at the birth process. Look at watermelons, or look at the different, species of birds or the way that their feathers ruffle. That didn't just come out of ash. God created that. And you don't have to believe in my God. Like, that's right. I tell people, like, I don't know, but I don't know if I agree with that. I have so many like lovely people, but we were saying before the podcast that, like, no one was ever bullied into believing in God. And I truly believe that. And I've seen a lot of perspective, and I've shared a space with a lot of people with a lot of different beliefs. And I think in the end that the majority of those people that I've crossed paths with in life, they do believe in God. Their God might just be a little bit different than my God. And I believe in Jesus Christ and the Bible, and I believe it is a framework for your life. And you could argue till the day is dark about whether or not the Bible is true. On its worst day, if it wasn't true, it still gives you a beautiful framework to get through this life. And I think that's where, we have to share that. I agree. Like, just explore it on your own. You don't have to believe what I said. No, I agree with everything except we have a different God. We all have the same God. We just have different relationship with God. That's right. So that's a great way. We don't all have the same God. We're talking about the same God, right? God is available to all of us. God is love. But the relationship we have with God is, again, subjective. Right. And however that comes to you and whatever time that comes to you is also very subjective. So I think that's important to note too. So, to wrap up the whole thing, I'd like to have a we take, but also your own idea of a solution for when those moments get heated or, you're just not talking to each other or busy, whatever, when there's distraction around, what do you think is the best solution? Like, what can you say to a man? Like, hey, this is what you might try. Yeah. Well, I'll do my we take. So
All right.
I'll just because it's fresh in my brain at the moment. But my we take is just, in those moments of distraction and currently in my life, like I would say that taking the time, even on my own, to like pray over my husband, pray over my family. Yeah. He may not even be there, but the Lord hears it. My heart feels it. So that might be just enough to get us through. In terms of holding together our marriage and friendship and relationship. And again, prayer softens hearts. So it softens my heart. Because even if I don't feel like our communication is where I want it to be, or, our friendship and the fun and all of the things like are a little bit lost in the chaos at the moment, but it's not gone. It's still so alive. It's just, praying over your partner, praying over your friends, praying over your family, and your relationships. And then, giving people grace.
Yeah. Great. That's what I was going to say.
Giving people grace.
And then
giving yourself grace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And also knowing, like, it's cliche, but the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Like, just watering where you are and giving yourself grace. Yeah. And your partner grace.
Because God gave us a lot of grace.
Yeah, and it's always going to be different. Like, some days when people say it's 50-50, it's never. Like, it's either 80-20. Like, you might be having a day and need that extra emotional care and vice versa.
Well, what solution, though, would you offer? Let's say you had a particular situation and you're like, this is the key to me. This is how I need you to help solve our situation. What works for you in a relationship? What do you need from a man? What solution would you offer
Assurance, but it also goes back to what you said, Dusty, about love language. Like, at the end of the day, if my boyfriend's around and he's super busy and I'm super busy, having him just like in the same area as me makes me feel like comfortable. Like, I'm like, he's here. Like, even though we're both busy, I know we're still like somewhat on the same page. You know what I mean? Just presence, like having presence is everything to me.
That's interesting.
In the midst of it. I know. I don't know why. I don't need someone right here, but I like to have them like
in your space.
Yeah. You're independent, but you also...
That's what it is. But when I want to be not super hyper independent, it's nice to have that. Like,
that's good.
Yeah.
I think that sounds healthy.
Yeah. It is. It's nice because it's very... I feel like it's not the bare minimum, but it requires very... How would you say that? Like,
well, you're not being high maintenance.
Yeah,
you're
like
being extremely
it's almost
realistic.
like having a low maintenance friend that after a long day you can hang out with without having to use a bunch of energy. Like you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
We could sit in silence.
It's real.
But it matters. Yeah. It makes me feel better.
Yeah. My we take is interesting because I feel like I've like come in some weird circles here today because it started out with like my kitten and then like just the way that I spoke to myself in that time. And then obviously if I speak to my, it's kind of come to an interesting evolution. But I think that in my, I'm in my 4th decade of life, right? So I think in this time, I've learned that some people just will not communicate the way that resonates with you. There are people in this world who just won't communicate. They won't admit that they're wrong. They won't admit that they will admit that they're right. They think that they're right all the time. They won't admit they're part of a situation. And I think that is very difficult. When you're a person who's like that, you definitely need to maybe just like look in the mirror just a minute more and say, okay, I did definitely have a part here because everybody has a part. Yeah. And I think that the style of communication is extremely important. And so you have to make sure that the person that you're sort of in the foxhole with is going to be communicating with you, man or woman, right? If you're a man and you have a woman and a woman, make sure that their communication style fits you. Yeah. Don't try to make it fit. It's got to fit you if it's going to be right. And I think that if I had a solution, it would be exactly what we've sort of been coming at. Put the phone down, rid yourself of distractions, and make sure that you make the time for that. I'm not sure that I've always looked at it that way. I've always made the time, but I don't know if I've done it in a I mean, I'm telling you what, you're like, put a candle on and turn off the lights and make some tea. I wish I'd implemented that for so many years of my life and in so many ways. I'm like, oh, why couldn't I have thought of that?
Well, it sounds like such a silly thing, but
no, it doesn't. But it sounds great.
No, it sounds so peaceful.
Yeah,
but it's, if you, scientifically, they say, right, that rituals create safety.
Yeah.
And if you feel safe, you are more willing to be vulnerable and present.
True.
Yeah.
Like, what happened when you don't feel safe, you retreat, right?
Right.
So safety creates a space where you get to be your authentic self. And when you show up as your authentic self, somebody else can show up as their authentic self. And guess what? Now that's where partnership happens, right? Yeah. That's where freedom and safety, take space and build and live.
Absolutely. So. And in truth, if we're talking about the Bible, which it's extremely important, again, it's a good framework. You've got a lot of good lessons in the Bible, even if that's how you take it.
Right.
It's really just trying to love one another and trying to function the very best that we can in society in building each other up. Let your words be good. Let your words be kind and build people up in this world, not tear them down. So
let them be a life giver.
Yeah, absolutely. Be light,
light.
And that's important. So next week, actually, we're going to dive into an interesting topic, and we're going to have a guest speaker and a man guest speaker. And we are going to talk about women in relationships and how we view them and how differently men sometimes view relationships in relation to the way that we do, and how sometimes that leads to that sort of breakdown in the communication we were talking about today. So we want to thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed the second episode of the second season on women in communication, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.